Did you know that when Nikola Jokic was being drafted in 2014 with the 41st pick, the NBA switched to a commercial break, so we missed the moment when the future two-time MVP was asked to the podium. Of course, there are no photos of that moment in any of the stock photos database. It's just our luck that we missed the opportunity to see one of the biggest future superstars in action. But that's not my biggest problem with Jokic. My biggest problem is that he was selected with the 41st pick. There were 40 players selected ahead of him, which, in hindsight, seem like 40 bad choices. In this video, I wanted to show you what happened to each of those 40 players, where they are now, and how they grew during that time. Let's kick things off with the 40th pick, none other than Glenn Robinson III, son of the one and only Glenn Big Dog Robinson, who snagged the top spot in the '94 draft. Jr. put up some impressive numbers in his 7 NBA seasons, playing a grand total of 304 games. And if you're wondering what his claim to fame is, it's winning a slam dunk contest. Yep, he's got some serious hops. After hanging up his basketball sneakers in 2021, he headed south to play for the Mexican Plateros de Fresnillo. But wait, there's more. He also went on to start his very own AAU team. The 39th pick is causing some serious migraines for all the GMs out there. Jeremy Grant is what we like to call a late bloomer. He didn't exactly sprout up overnight. It wasn't until his 5th season with the Oklahoma City Thunder that he finally got his chance to shine on the offensive side of the court. Fast forward to 2020, and he lands himself a sweet contract with the Detroit Pistons, where he became their #1 go-to guy. The only teeny tiny issue is that he's never actually made it to the playoffs. Yikes. And with the Blazers, it's not looking like he'll be breaking that curse anytime soon. Better luck next time, Jeremy. Get ready to facepalm, because the 38th pick is another prime example of GMs making questionable choices. Spencer Dinwiddie was basically the poster child for regrets when he played for the Detroit Pistons. For his first 2 years in the league, he barely saw any action, playing only 46 games total. Talk about a bench warmer. And to add insult to injury, he was stuck behind Brandon Jennings, DJ Augustine, Steve Blake, and Reggie Jackson. We're starting to sense a pattern here. But wait, it gets better. After 2 years of collecting splinters on the bench, he was traded to the Nets for Cameron Barstow, who's now living it up in retirement after playing for the Adelaide 36ers. But here's the kicker, Dinwiddie suddenly sprouted wings and soared with the Nets, earning himself a whopping $20 million per year contract. He's now the starting point guard for the Brooklyn Nets and was even one of Luka Doncic's most valuable teammates when they made it to the Western Conference Finals. The 37th pick is none other than DeAndre Daniels, a man with a passport full of stamps but not a single NBA game to his name. Despite getting selected by the Toronto Raptors, he never quite made the cut in the league, opting instead for some summer league games, followed by stints in the G League, and a jet-setting lifestyle that would make even the most seasoned globetrotter jealous. From Australia to Russia, New Zealand to the Dominican Republic, and even all the way up to Finland, this guy has seen it all. But as of June 2022, he's currently teamless, which means his suitcase is probably gathering dust somewhere while he waits for his next adventure. Next one is Johnny O'Brien, a guy who's been around the block more times than your grandma's cat. The Milwaukee Bucks thought they struck gold when they picked him 36th in the draft, but after just 2 seasons, they quickly realized they were wrong and booted him out the door. He tried his luck with the Denver Nuggets and Charlotte Hornets, but the NBA wasn't quite the right fit for him. So, what does a guy do when he's down on his luck? He starts packing his bags, of course. O'Brien embarked on a globe-trotting adventure. From Israel to Russia, Serbia to Turkey, South Korea to the Philippines, and now he's landed himself a gig in China. Once upon a time, the Utah Jazz selected Jarnell Stokes as the 35th pick in the draft, but before he could even lace up his sneakers, he was shipped off to the Memphis Grizzlies like a package from Amazon. He then bounced around the league like a basketball in a pinball machine, playing for the Miami Heat and New Orleans Pelicans before getting released into the wild. Poor guy couldn't even get a guaranteed deal to save his career and ended up playing in China. Meanwhile, Anthony Early was picked 34th by the New York Knicks and had a more tragic life story than a soap opera. He had lost his cousin and brother at a young age, and later almost lost his leg, after getting shot while driving an Uber. It's a wonder the guy could even dribble a basketball with all that going on. He traveled the world playing basketball like Carmen Sandiego, but instead of finding her, he ended up in Mongolia. Joe Harris was the 33rd pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers. but he got passed around the league like a hot potato. After being traded to the Orlando Magic, they dropped him like a bad habit. But that didn't stop him from becoming a three-point legend, ranked 4th all-time and the #1 active player in the game. It just goes to show that you don't need a team to make it rain from beyond the arc. KJ McDaniels may not have had the most successful NBA career, but he sure knew how to jump and dunk like a champ. Unfortunately, the Sixers decided to trade him after just a year and a half. But don't worry, he didn't let that get him down. He played in the Big Three League, and now spends most of his time in the Philippines. And get this, he's averaging around 26 points per game. That's more than enough to make up for not being in the NBA, if you ask me. Damian Inglis is like the basketball equivalent of Where's Waldo. He played just 20 games in the NBA, and then he disappeared. Well, not really. He went back to France and played for 4 different clubs. And now he's in Spain, playing for Gran Canaria. Maybe he's just trying to collect as many basketball jerseys as possible? The 30th selection was Kyle "Slow-Mo" Anderson. He may not be the flashiest player on the court, but he's got some serious basketball IQ. He's played for 3 different NBA teams so far, and he seems to switch things up every 4 years like clockwork. San Antonio Spurs, Memphis Grizzlies, and now Minnesota Timberwolves. I wonder where he'll go next? Well, look who we have here, Josh Hustis, the 29th pick by Oklahoma City Thunder. He spent his first season in NBDL, which is like the minor leagues of basketball. Then, in 2015 the Thunder decided to take pity on him and signed a deal, but for the next 2 years, he spent more time in the G League than on the actual team. Finally, in the 2018 season, he got to play a whopping 67 games, but it looks like his performance wasn't enough to impress the bigwigs, because his contract wasn't renewed. Since then, he's been hanging out in the G League, waiting for his chance to shine. So, there was this guy named CJ Wilcox who got drafted by the LA Clippers at number 28. He was there for 2 seasons, played just 44 games, and then got traded to Orlando Magic. But his career took a nosedive from there, and he ended up playing mostly in the G League until 2020. Now he's just a free agent, waiting for someone to give him a call. Poor guy, he's probably refreshing his phone every 5 seconds hoping for an offer. Going forward, we have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who was drafted by the Phoenix Suns but never got to play for them. He was traded to Sacramento Kings for Marquise Chris, but injuries kept him from reaching his full potential. Now, he's with the Atlanta Hawks, and let's just say, he was quite the anti-hero during a sign and trade with Milwaukee Bucks. The deal fell through because he talked to them too early, and the Bucks got punished with a loss of pick in the 2nd round. Next, we have PJ Hairston, who was traded to the Charlotte Hornets right after being drafted by the Miami Heat. He played for 2 seasons and then retired from the NBA in 2018. This guy had a record of bad behavior, starting from his college days when he got suspended for driving too fast, having marijuana, and driving without a license. Later on, he got suspended in NBDL for failing drug tests. Yikes, PJ, what were you thinking? Moving on, we have Clint Capella, who was a backup for Dwight Howard in the Houston Rockets, but eventually became one of the best centers in the league thanks to James Harden's assists. Now, he's playing for the Atlanta Hawks and catching alley-oop passes from Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I guess you could say he's really capping it up out there. Then there's Shabazz Napier, who was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets but immediately traded to the Miami Heat. The Heat management thought they could keep LeBron James by getting Napier, who James said was the best point guard in the draft class. But James went back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Heat got stuck with Napier. He played for a total of 345 NBA games and now plays in Italy for Armani Milano. Now, we have Rodney Hood, who played for 6 NBA teams until the 2022 season. He was last seen playing for the USA national team in World Cup qualifiers. I guess he's living his dream of playing for Team USA, even if it's not the way he thought he would. Jordan Adams on the other hand, had to leave basketball due to his knee injuries. But after a few years, he's back playing in Venezuela. He must have missed the game so much that he was willing to need to get back in. Mitch McGary was a promising talent, but drugs got the best of him. After being suspended twice in 2016, he got released by the Oklahoma City Thunder. He tried his luck in bowling afterward, but let's just say, it didn't strike him as much as basketball did. Now, let's talk about Bruno Caboclo, who was drafted by the Toronto Raptors. They said he was 2 years away from being 2 years from Kevin Durant. but he never lived up to the hype. He only played 105 games in the NBA, and now he's in Germany playing for Ulm. The 19th pick, Gary Harris, was passed around like a hot potato on draft day, starting with the Chicago Bulls and ending up with the Denver Nuggets. Harris spent 6.5 seasons with the Nuggets before being traded to the Orlando Magic in 2021 for Aaron Gordon. Harris is now a veteran and three-point shooter, making 43% of his threes this season. Tyler Ennis, the 18th pick, got traded more often than a pack of baseball cards. He started with the Phoenix Suns but was then traded to the Milwaukee Bucks after 6 months, then to the Houston Rockets after 18 months, and then finally to the Los Angeles Lakers. Ennis played for the Lakers for 1 year and was then released. He's been spending most of his post-NBA time in Turkey playing for Fenerbahçe Istanbul, Türk Telekom, and currently for Tofaş Bursa. Looks like he's really racking up those frequent flyer miles. James Young, the 17th pick, played for 3 years on his rookie deal with the Boston Celtics, before playing 6 games for the Philadelphia 76ers, and then disappearing from the NBA altogether. He's now playing in Greece for Kolossos Rhodes. It seems like his basketball career has gone to Athens. Yusuf Nurkic, the 16th pick, was initially picked by Charlotte but was traded to Chicago for Tyrese Thomas. Nurkic was then traded to the Denver Nuggets, but the Nuggets soon realized that Jokic was their man and traded Nurkic to the Blazers in 2017. He has ongoing injury problems, playing 8, 37, 56, and 52 games in the current season. Looks like Nurkic has more injuries than an accident-prone kid on a playground. Adrian Payne, the 15th pick, played a total of 107 games for the Atlanta Hawks, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Orlando Magic before tragically being shot to death in May 2022. Rest in peace, Adrian. DJ Warren, the 14th pick, spent his first 3 seasons as a rotation player for the Phoenix Suns, but after some trades and rebuilding, he became a focal point. Unfortunately, he lost to injuries, and since the COVID bubble in Orlando, he has only played a total of 46 games in 3 years. He's back in Phoenix now, but he's playing a very limited role in garbage time only. Looks like he's now a bench warmer. Zach LaVine, the 13th pick, was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves but is now in Chicago Bulls trying to get the team back-to-back to playoffs. LaVine is a great dunker and a former slam dunk champion in probably the best slam dunk contest ever. He's sure got some hops. Alright, hold on to your seats folks because we're talking about Dario Globetrotter Saric. The Orlando Magic drafted him, but he was shipped off to Philly faster than you can say Elfrid Payton. After 2 years of development, he was traded for Jimmy Butler and then again to the Phoenix Suns, where he really started to shine. But now, he's on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and rumor has it he might be taking his talents across the pond next season. So, the 11th pick was Doug McDermott, who's apparently just a knockoff Kyle Korver. But hey, at least he's a useful role player, right? I mean, come on, can we at least try to be original here? But hey, he's a great shooter, so I guess we can't be too hard on him. Then we've got Elfrid Payton, who was supposed to be the point guard of the future for Orlando Magic. But now he's injured and stuck in the G League, which is kind of like being stuck in NBA purgatory. Noah Vonleh is still in the NBA? I thought he retired and became a goat farmer or something. But seriously, 362 games played and his best season was for the Knicks? That's like being the tallest dwarf. Nick Stauskas was supposed to be a great shooter, but I guess his defense was as effective as a screen door on a submarine. And playing in the NBA Finals doesn't mean much if you're out of the league soon after. Maybe he can start a new career as a hype man for his old teammates. Julius Randle's debut game was cursed, but he bounced back and is now an all-star and team leader for the Knicks. It's like that old saying, when life gives you lemons, make a triple-double. Marcus Smart is a defensive powerhouse, but let's be real, his three-point shooting is worse than a blindfolded grandma throwing a frisbee. But hey, at least he won Defensive Player of the Year in 2022. Dante Exum was supposed to be a defensive powerhouse, but injuries took him out of the game. Maybe he can start a new career as a motivational speaker for recovering players. If I can come back from this, you can too. Now he's playing in Serbia, which is kind of like playing basketball in the upside down. Aaron Gordon was supposed to be a franchise player for the Magic, but he only helped them reach the playoffs once. At least he's friends with Jokic now. And don't get me started on his slam dunk contest losses. He's probably the only person in history who can jump over a mascot and still lose. Joel Embiid is the second best player in this draft, but he's always second to Jokic. Maybe this year he'll finally get that MVP award he's been campaigning for. Or maybe he'll just have to settle for being a superstar. Jabari Parker was plagued by injuries his entire career, but at least he can say he played more NBA games than most people. And his rivalry with Andrew Wiggins was supposed to be a spectacle, but it turned out more like a whimper. Maybe they can start a podcast about what could have been. And finally, we have Andrew Wiggins, the Canadian Michael Jordan. Or as some like to call him, the Canadian Michael Bublé. But hey, he won a championship last season, so he must be doing something right. Maybe he can teach the Timberwolves how to win one too. Okay, that's it for today. Remember to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.